Here we go. Tim, I gotta ask you one simple question, brother. You ready to ride the wave? Let's rock. Boom! There we go. Let's go.
Another episode of Riding the Wave with Dave, and we were here compliments of the Ohio Freedom Alliance tonight, right, guys?
You bet.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and introduce you. Jim Ganahl, longtime weatherman, Channel 4.
Right.
And actually, you just celebrated, what, 30 years?
Here, yes, in town.
Good, congratulations. And
I
another
figure I got 10 years of wrong forecasts and 20 years of right ones.
That's okay. Well, we're going to watch you anyhow because you're entertaining, right? The heck with the forecast. And Bob Wagner, and you guys just put on a real nice presentation. Oh, yeah. Bob, you are known as the Internet Skeptic, too, right?
Yes. The global warming stuff, you can, if you're on YouTube, just search Internet Skeptic, or you can go to CO2 is Life. That's the new website we have out there that covers a large number of the presentations that I give.
Okay, and I've got some film highlights tonight of both your guys' presentations, so we'll mix that on in. And because of the time factor, we won't go in real depth, but it sounds like you guys are both on the same page on this global warming hoax. And so, Jim, why don't you go ahead and give your overview, and why have you become so interested to come out and speak at these public venues and
Well, as you probably know, that at times we're under a lot of criticism for our thinking on global warming.
Right.
And they wanted to take away our credentials and shut us down as meteorologists without any scientific basis or fact behind what they're saying. So we thought if we would just sit back and watch this develop over the years, eventually the global warming hoax would become very, very obvious.
Yes.
And it is. But it's still amazing to me how much it is still being pushed, even though the numbers that he points out are true, and it is an obvious fallacy. It's just remarkable how many people are being led like sheep the wrong direction.
He's got some good material, right, Bob? No, I mean,
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. Well, and okay, Jim, let me ask you this quick question. It seems like, in my opinion anyhow, that the media, I always call it the big media, it seems like they've got an agenda where they're pushing this, and you're from the media, and you're actually opposite of this. So what's your thoughts on
Well, you
that
think
aspect?
back in the media. Remember when the War of the Worlds first came out with Orson Welles, and how that was like mind control and controlling people through the media, and you can see how that could happen. And I've seen that over the course of recent years with swine flu, with West Nile.
Silicone breast implants.
We panic the population, and then it turns out to be false. But it's amazing that people believe what they see, and the Internet's another tool for that, and they can be controlled. And it's remarkable how invasive that can be.
Right. So you're pretty much on line with the thought that a lot of this false information and what we just called the great hoax is being pushed by the media, and for reasons that, Bob, I'll let you go ahead and go into with all your research, with everything you've done and all your connecting to the dots. What's your opinion on what the real agenda is behind all this?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say I am so thankful to see someone like Jim Ganahl out speaking about something, and I'm so glad to see people are finally addressing this in a realistic and honest way. Because I've been giving this presentation for 4 years, and I've been wondering, where are the people who clearly understand that this is a hoax? Why are they remaining so silent? I find it in economics. I can't understand why the economists are quiet about this, because that's all we do is run these multivariable models. The original climate models were nothing more than edited financial models, so if anyone understands how to test this kind of a theory, CO2 drives temperature, it's the economists, it's the financial people, it's the people who work in the universities. They have the ability to understand this, and yet they're remaining quiet.
They're so smart.
They're so
and
smart.
Yet they're ignoring everything.
Yeah, and that's what I have a problem with it, is because I'm no Einstein, and in the presentation you'll see that you don't have to be an Einstein to see how fraudulent this is, and yet everybody's remaining silent about it. And it's just going to need people. It's going to need people like Jim, who are recognized, respected by the community, and when they start questioning it, people are going to start asking the same questions I did, and they're going to start seeing the same thing that Jim's pointing out, that it's a huge hoax. I personally have always thought this was nothing. At first I thought it was nothing more than Al Gore's way to become president. I thought, okay, he's got a nice little political...
Or make a lot of money.
Political angle. Well, he's made a lot of money. But at first I just thought it was a political angle, and no one would ever really act on it. And what gets me worried now is I'm starting to see, I think they're going to act on this stuff, and this is economic suicide. And that's what's really got me worried. At first I thought it was a joke. I thought anybody should be able to see through this. And now we went over about who's being put on the committees and things like that for Barack Obama. I'm scared that they're actually going to do something with this.
Well, it's refreshing to me to see, two guys like you to come together, and you both have pretty much formed a consensus. And Jim, what other points would you like to elaborate on tonight on your presentation and Bob's, and kind of like the reception you received from the people tonight? Because you've got a great reception tonight.
Well, very simply, one of the key issues, these temperature changes that go up and down, and you can trace them back thousands of years.
Okay.
You can see how they have political changes, and we should be celebrating we live in a warmer cycle because we can grow food, we can feed people, and the political climate is more stable. It's when we go the other way that things collapse. We could trace it back through the Incas, the Aztecs, we can trace it to the Middle Ages, we can trace it to the Vikings in Greenland, all the things like that. And it was very simple, too, that you can look at the sun. The sun is never, ever used in any of these things, and that these simple sun changes with sunspots, as you can see on spaceweather.com. And when the sun is turned on, there's more sunspot, the earth warms. When it's not, we cool. And all of this is just being ignored. So when even simple things get ignored, it bothers me.
Yeah, it's the worst modeling you can imagine. The way I describe it is, if you're doing a study on weight loss, if you're going to model that, you would have to have two variables for sure: exercise and caloric intake. If you look at how they model things, they literally leave out the sun and they leave out water vapor, which is like literally doing a study on weight loss and forgetting to include exercise and caloric intake. And they focus on these minuscule variables that are highly insignificant in their model, and that's why they focus on CO2. It has very little impact on temperature. But by leaving out the other major significant variables, they can come out with this study, these results that say, oh, CO2 causes it. But the only way they're doing it is by doing extremely bad modeling practices.
How can they demonize CO2 when that is like food for the trees?
It's
that
airborne
gives off
fertilizer.
The oxygen that we realize.
You pull CO2 out of the atmosphere, trees die. Matter of fact, go inside of a greenhouse and look up at the ceiling, and you'll see these little canister type things. Those are CO2 generators. Agriculture understands that as you increase CO2, yield production increases. And Jim is dead right. Civilizations thrive when things warm. They die when it cools. Nothing grows in ice, and the ice age destroys civilizations. We should be thanking God that we're in a warm period, as Jim says.
We don't.
Well, you're right. And one thing, like I say, because of the time factor, we'll go ahead and have to cut this short. But, Jim, what are your plans as far, are you going to try to stay real active as far as getting your message? Because I think your message is very critical as to what's going on. Are you going to try and stay active and go and make other presentations with a guy like Bob, or on your own, or what?
I have been, but nobody's been listening until recently, when
now,
it's been very obvious that there's a problem.
Yeah, well, when it affects everybody's wallet, I'm sure they're going to be listening. So you got a powerful message, and I would personally like to thank you tonight for everything you've done and everything you're going to do in the future, and for all your years of service of giving us poor citizens out here some good weather advice.
Jim is definitely a great American.
That's exactly right.
I'm so glad to see him out speaking the truth.
And Bob, you're going to keep on doing what you're doing. Let the audience know what all you're about and what you've got on the agenda.
Well, like I said, you can check out the YouTube site, CO2 is Life, that has most of our presentation there. I do give a live presentation. You can contact me through that website. We give it to civic organizations, political organizations. We've given it at universities, science classes. Anybody who will allow you to breach this subject, give me a call. I'll come and give the lecture. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. I've given it to ultra-liberal groups. I've given it to ultra-conservative groups. I've got a lot of wounds in my back from it, but I'm still working, and I love to do it. So bottom line is, if you believe in global warming, I dare you to have me come to give a presentation.
Okay, guys. Well, listen, we got to wrap up, so thank you very much. Thank you, Jim.
Hey, Jim,
have a good day.
And Bob,
great job.
Hey, good job, man. Good job, brother. Okay, that's it for tonight. Wrapping it up. Another episode of Riding Away with